Hello and welcome to our podcast. I am Andy McCann and we are trying to help you lay a firm foundation in fitness, food, and finances. This podcast is going to have two parts and you might want to fast forward to hear the Rich Dad Poor Dad. We're going to go through that, but first I'm going to cover some gym stuff and in there it's going to get a little bit tough. So what I'm going to do is go through it, hit pause, take a break, come back here, and then try to do the rest. So hopefully I'll be back to upbeat in my normal self. But first is gym stuff. So again, right here, if you're watching the video, so it's Rich Dad Poor Dad, will be up for the most part of it. But anyway, get through the gym stuff. So, as you guys may know, if you've been following along in the podcast or videos, rent has gone up, and we've done a lot of stuff to try to fix it, and nothing has really worked, or at least recover from that huge, about a $30,000 hike on top of us that we weren't really expecting, and it wasn't in the budget, but, or in the forecast, but when your landlord changes the rent, he changes the rent. It's not out of whack. It is like a little bit higher than like some of it's like around us, but not tremendously. Not enough that I would, and I'm sure they calculated this, not enough that I would like pay to move the gym and rebuild everything, because that would cost me more than the hike itself. So it would be a diminishing returns. I did look to buy a building. I've been looking for quite some time, and it's never really panned out. But anyway, so in the garage member forum, Coach Jamie posted that on October 1st, she'll be leaving the gym to pursue her other businesses. And it basically comes down to the $30,000 the landlord put on us. We just could not solve it. And I'm gonna have to pause this. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to do this quick because I don't think I'm gonna make it. But we did everything we thought we should do. I paid personally for a mentor from Two Brain. We followed their steps. We did everything. I had Jamie, Danny, Natalie, and me working on stuff to like add members, to create new programs. You name it, we did it. I have a whole list here. I don't really feel like. Okay, if it sounds disconjointed, it's because I'm pausing to collect myself. So we tried a lot of stuff: moving, building something, working on fees, paid ads, word of mouth. This podcast, that's where it kind of came from 2 years ago. And now we're moving on to we did consolidating software, and I'm moving on to cutting expensive. So we've done a whole bunch of stuff. I listed out some things. It totals about $1,000 of expenses I was able to cut out of the business. Most of it just means I'm doing it myself rather than paying people to do it, or we moved all the software to like Wodify. The problem is weird stuff happens like, hey, the toilet broke. And I paid Reliable Heating and Air and Plumbing to come fix it 3 times, and I fired them. And then Jamal came back in town. I said, Jamal, please make this work. And so we're left with an eyeball toilet that sort of eyeballs, but not all the time. But it's $1,000 to get that fixed. I know, it's insane. You would think, well, wouldn't the landlord do that? No, I am a landlord for rental property. And yes, we do cover that stuff, but a landlord in commercial property is totally different. I would ask somebody that's in the business, talk to Aaron Vincent. Hey, what does the landlord cover? Actually, he might own that building, so he is his own landlord. But anyway, ask somebody that has a business, what do they actually cover? Pretty much nothing. It's walls and the ceiling, and they deliver electricity and water. But after that, they don't care. So we did everything we could, and we can't defeat the $30,000 or something increase in the rent. And we're still here. It just reverts the gym back to how we were back in 2017. So will you guys notice a change? I would hope so. You would notice a change, but in the day-to-day, probably not. So I'll pick up whatever morning classes there are for the gym starting in October. And so we'll transition out that way. And I got to pause again. All right. I have no idea where I was. That was a long pause. So the other thing is in the last podcast, if you made it to the end, I went on a long run with Eddie in one of our adventure races. And the idea and the thought process and whatever came up of how do I transition the gym to somebody, what's the succession model? My kids and family aren't interested in CrossFit like that at all. They're on their way to having successful, hey, here's a cheat for you guys. We're about to talk about Rich Dad Poor Dad. The cheat, my daughter was a little nervous that she wasn't doing the right plan. I'm like, honey, you're on the right plan. You go into a college, you get a hard degree that uses your mind and are going to get a job that pays you pretty well and you live pretty light. So you're doing the right plan. All we need is base hits and doubles and so forth. But anyway, so they're not interested in this. So what's the succession plan? Anyway, they may not be a good fit personality-wise, right? So in 2025, I am going to work on that succession plan. I'm looking for a passionate coach or member that loves this. I haven't taken money out of the gym in 10 years. So you sort of do it as a passion project. Yes, there are things you could do to like capture that money. I usually then hold it and then spend it. Like the fan that we bought, I paid for it and then the gym paid me back. So I guess I did take money out in the form of a loan. I paid the gym and then the gym paid me. So I've never taken money out on top of paying myself back on a loan. But you can do that. So if anybody is passionate and you want to start a conversation, I think 2025 is a year I pass the torch on. I do love working with you guys, but this stuff right here hurts my heart in ways. Shit. All right, enough of that. I can't make it through that anymore. We're just going to go on, and I'll do some gym happenings, and then I'm going to pause, and then I'll get myself hyped back up, and we'll talk about the story of how I sort of became kind of retired at a younger age than most, and it's basically from the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. All right, so other things that are going on. Let's see. On September 21st, we'll do the Simple Nutrition Kickstarter. So you guys have been asking about that. Hopefully you guys sign up. I'm going to sign up, so I'm interested in doing it, but hopefully, if there's only like 3 of us, then they'll turn it into something different. They'll do their online or their one-on-one thing rather than the group thing, but that's totally fine. Hopefully you and your friends and family find it interesting and like we'll spend 8 weeks with us doing a thing. Anyway, we got a coaches party on coaches hangout at my house on September 28th. Then we've got the gym party at my house. So we're going to try to host it here at the McCann farm where the Hawks have a buffet of all my chickens. I had hatched 50 chicks and there are 3 left. So it took 2 months for the Hawks to take them out. But at least they didn't go after any of my laying hens. So weirdly, hens only lay for about 2 years. So I guess I kind of want them to be gotten some, but it's so weird. I should probably just buy eggs from somebody else. Anyway, so we'll do a gym party here. The only way you can get the invite is through the Evite that I'll send out to just members. So if you've resubscribed to your Wodify email, then you'll see the Evite. I'm also only going to take maybe 30 people, and that includes friends and family, like coming together, not friends, but your family. So, husband, wives, and kids, totally come. We got a place made for children, super fun. But I think at 30, I'm going to probably even have to rent some porta potties because we are on septic. And I think if we flush the toilets that much, it'll blow it up. And so anyway, I'm going to go with 30 and we'll see what happens. I know not everyone can make it. There's sports and all that stuff. So 30 sounds good. Okay, on October 14th, we have Bring a Friend. The only thing you have to have for Bring a Friend is a waiver. If you let me know ahead of time, I'll get them all set up, and we'll make sure that we are prepared in the gym to bring them in. So Bring a Friend is basically our gift back to you to say, hey, we already know, trust, love, and like you. You guys are happy, humble, helpful people that want to be healthy and fit now as well as in our 90s. We probably like your friends. Like Jared brought in his wife Taylor last night, and Kate was her buddy, and they had a good time. So we'll see if that pans out. But the point is, we want you to bring friends and family. If you've got a one-off, like, hey, Andy, I've got a friend in town and he wants to come in and try this thing out, or my kid is, whatever. If your kid is 18, yes, we'll take them. Or if they're in high school, we'll talk about it. But I will come up with some way to be there just for you to make it all be fun and cool and interesting without taking away from class or the coach, okay? So I'll do that for you. On December 2nd, we're going to do the Alumni Week. So if you've were with us in the past, probably say, I don't know, I'll pick a date like June 2024 or later, then come on in for that week. You guys know what you're doing. You already have waivers on file. Basically, just let me know you're coming. I'll set you up with a free week. You can come in and hang out and jump into classes. Okay, other fun stuff that is happening. Let's go to this right here. So Sharon is in a sweet competition. This is her arm. She's a team 112, so 112. This is her and her teammates right here. So if you're on, if you're videoing, you can see all this. If not, go to Sharon's Facebook page or Instagram account. And you'll see all this stuff. Let's see. This is Sharon throwing the heavy sandbag. I love that. She's looking awesome right there. And then this is the most recent that I saw. It's the morning of Friday, so they're about to get started. I'm doing this podcast a little early. I was trying to get them super close to the actual release date, but it's Labor Day weekend, and I won't be here, so I need to get this done. Let me hit refresh on this and see if she has any other pictures in there. Joe was going to send me some video. No, okay. So we will wait eagerly to see how she is doing. Okay, so other stuff. I did mention that we have the gym party coming. So right here you can see the swing that my wife had installed in our backyard. This is Evie swinging on it. Hopefully there's no sound coming through. I don't know. They always... oops, I just made that. How do I pause it? There we go. It's a massive swing. The swing is wired at the very top of some trees, and it's got like a 3-story or 30-foot rope ropes hanging down. It's a swoofer or something like that, swing. So it's made to be, well, it's made to go crazy on it. We don't go crazy on it. I just got it fixed back up, and she was giving it a test run. So if you could see that, it's a super swing. If you've got kids, they're going to love doing this. I will caution you, if you have a wet bathing suit and you sit on that, you are probably going to go sliding off. So we're looking for the rubber toppers that we had, but I think the dog chewed them all up. So don't do it wet. But all right, what else was next? Oh, so we did do a thing. I think I mentioned this last time. We have this Garage Fitness Online thing that we're turning up, me, Brandon, Justin, and Charles. And really the whole idea is people have left the gym and they started a home gym, but then they don't work out because they don't have motivation. So somebody said, Andy, why don't you solve it? I'm like, or that's a problem. And I don't like problems to be there. So we're trying to solve it. Brandon is going to be doing the program for it. So if you've got a home gym and you're listening to us out in the ether, I know there's a lot of people downloading this stuff and I have no idea who you are because there's no visibility in any of that. But if you go to, right now, the page is just hosted off of the CrossFit page because Wodify said, yeah, we'll do a thing for you. So if you go to CrossFitGarage.com/garage-fitness-online, you'll get to the page that we've started. It's not open and rolling yet. The lawyer said, hey, you can't really do this until September 8th when they think everything will be done. Yes, you have to have lawyers, LLCs, and insurance and all that crap. It is crazy what it takes to even start something that I was just like, hey, Brandon, you want to give out some programming and I'll help you get there? Yes, not that easy. If you want to keep your house, it's not that easy. Where were we? Okay, so the other thing coming up for you guys is Jake Earls has just joined the gym. He owns Dirty Horse Paint Protection and Auto Detailing. Whew, I can't get that out of my mouth. Across the street. Well, across the street and over a little bit. Anyway, he and I are working out a deal where the people that are on the committed board get to get entered into a raffle the number of times that you have logins. So if you've got 24 logins, your name goes in the raffle 24 times. If you've got 12, then it goes in 12 times. So obviously your chances of winning go up, right? The more you come in. So we are working on a deal where you win a car detailing from him. So now not just being committed is awesome for your health, but it'll be awesome for your car. So thank you, Jake, for putting that together, and I look forward to talking to you about that. Okay, let me pause here and look through my notes. Oh, one more thing. Louis is looking at possibly getting his online CrossFit level 1 certification so that he can open up a compete class in the middle of the day. Right now, I tried to do hey, if you've been here for 4 years and have 500 or more check-ins, then I'm going to get you a key thing. But the insurance guy said, yeah, you can't do that. So I have to do certain things for insurance, like put up video cameras and then have a phone in the gym, which I have a cell phone available, so I'll probably use that. And then I have to change my waiver, buy some insurance, and then also put a key-padded way to get into the gym so that so they know who's coming in. So I'm like, all right, I didn't really expect all that. I knew it kind of from the first time I tried to do this a year ago, but I sort of forgot about it. So the key thing's on hold until I get these things done, and I'm going to get them done. And we're going to try, the people who've been here for 4+ years, we're going to try starting with you guys, see how it goes. If everything is kosher, then I will do that. So the idea of the key is, hey, I'm late for class, and I was 30 minutes late for class. Nobody was there, and the coach left. I want to come in and do a thing. Yeah, sure. It's 5 a.m. Andy, you're supposed to coach. And Andy, you forgot and overslept. So Moises, open the door and start a thing, right? Let's see. What you can't do is, my buddy Timmy just came to town. We're going to go to the gym and do a thing, but that won't be a thing. If you do that, you lose the key. That totally violates all my insurance stuff. We can't just have random people dropping in. Now, if Timmy did come to town and you let me know, we will set something up and get him waivered and all that, and we'll make a real thing out of it, not a random thing, okay? Basically, don't be dumb, and we can keep this thing going. Insurance isn't a huge fan without the I's dotted and T's crossed, but we'll get those things figured out over time. Okay, I would have guessed 15 minutes, or wouldn't have guessed 15 minutes for all that, but here we are, 15 or 14 minutes into it, and now I'm on to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This may take a while. We'll see how long it goes. I plan to fill this full of anecdotes and what we did and give you actual advice of, hey, how can I be 50, healthy and fit, and not have a normal job. Now, I will admit this. With all my kids going to college, Evie's about to, or 3 of them went to college, Evie's about to drive, and know how teenage girls do with driving. They're like, Dad, see ya. I expect I'm going to have a lot more time on my hands. Right now, I'm in the last month of teaching her how to drive, so she and I are in the car a lot. She goes to Fellowship Christian School, which is on a normal day, 20 minutes away. With traffic, it's like 30 to 40 minutes. I don't know if I really thought that one through, but that's the way our life is right now. So she drives me to school, then I go do a thing, and then I'll go to school and she drives me home, right? Or we drive around and do stuff, whatever it is. But while I love you guys tremendously, my priority is to make sure my daughter is alive on the road. So that's what I'm doing. That's where a lot of my morning and some of my weird afternoon time is going. Let's see. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Erin said she just had her kids read this, or they read it or something. The whole family did it. And she's like, this is awesome. I'm going to tell you this. This book right here, and then also Dave Ramsey, which I'm pulling up here on video. So if you don't know Dave Ramsey, go listen to one of the other Get Out of Debt podcasts. Dave Ramsey is the man when it comes to getting out of debt. I took his advice and Rich Dad Poor Dad advice and a huge dosing of this book right here. I'm on BibleGateway.com, so it's the Bible. And yes, I am a believer. And yes, I follow this stuff. And yes, in my life, I can only attribute really what went down to listening and to these 3 books and doing what they said. And here's what went with Rich Dad Poor Dad. Essentially what I got out of the book was, hey, any idiot can do this. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm any idiot. I think I might be even better than any idiot, right? What I know now as a 50-year-old man, I was very good in book smarts and ones and zeros. I am not very good, even now to this day, on emotional smarts. I get it. Maybe I've got some tism. I don't know. Maybe it's still on me. Maybe I grew out of it. I don't know. But I know to work hard at trying to understand where people are coming from. I see logic in a very different way than most people, and I'm able to detach emotionalness to a logic, which frustrates the craziness out of a lot of people that I really love in my life. So yeah, I get it. This right here, and the journey that I've been on with the gym has really taught me how to work with people, and I guess like early on, unintentionally, well, it's neither here nor there. I've learned a lot. This has been a huge process for me, a huge growth. For me, I guess had y'all known me back when I was like, when did we start this? When I was like 30, you had been like, Andy's a dick. And I don't think I was like that intentionally. I just didn't really think about it. I went to Georgia Tech where everyone was a nerd, and so we fit in really well. My wife went to Georgia Tech. We fit together pretty well, not really knowing it wasn't normal. Okay, anyway, so Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He came up with this concept. He wrote a book, and it's essentially, I'm going to walk you through the basic points of it. I would encourage you to either read it or listen to it. I have audible.com. If you've never used that, you should. And you can have a book get read to you at ×2 speed. You may think that I talk fast. I feel like I should talk faster. And when I go to places with people talking, I want to push the button that makes them speed up. I know it's wrong and it's bad, but that's just who I am. So I love getting this material, even podcasts, delivered to me super fast. Okay, so I have some notes on the side. So if you see me watching, I'm going back between 2 screens. I got a screen over here on my left and a screen over here on my right and the camera in the middle. So maybe it works. For those that are on audio, it doesn't matter. You're never going to notice. I'm going to hit pause a few times, collect my thoughts, get my stories together, and then make sure I roll through this good stuff correctly. Okay, this one is funny. The rich don't work for money. Yes, I get that. But I'm going to throw a huge but in here. So Robert Kiyosaki does a thing where his poor dad has advice and his rich dad has advice. In a nutshell, his poor dad was very into the school system. I think he was a college professor and politics, and he relied on government. So he was a big government guy, poor his whole life. His rich dad, I don't think went to college, and he had multiple businesses and he was leveraged out to his eyeballs. I'm not into that. That's where Dave Ramsey comes in. I believe in solid base hits, double hits, and triples, right? I don't believe in swinging for the fences every time. Now, when you're younger, swing for the fences, because if you lose it all, you had nothing. But in business, you can do better than, what is it? If you do a grand slam, is that 4 runs? In business, you can do better than 4x. You could do, I guess it would be 3x because one's coming around. You could do 100x, right? So, for example, if you had bought Bitcoin like 2 years ago, you'd have like a 300 times increase in money. And I guess let me say this. I am not a financial advisor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not anybody smart. I'm just a dude who went through life. Everything I'm going to tell you is anecdotal from my experiences. I would definitely not believe me, and I would definitely go look all this crap up on your own. I'm just telling you my story. And this is when I say, here's what I would do, it's what I told my kids. Maybe it's not for you. And if you followed my advice that I gave to my kids and you're thinking, hey, he's telling me to do this, I guess good on you. I don't know, but it's my advice that I give my own children. So I'm going to speak as if you're my children. And this is, hopefully, actually, they go back and listen to this and they're like, hey, Dad, that was kind of good advice. But they've heard this their whole life. So anyway, poor dad. He believes in getting a good education, working hard, and securing a stable job with benefits. He represents the traditional mindset. And I've actually told my kids to do just that. Why? Because your money kind of has to come from somewhere. I'd rather not start out with debt when I could start off with my brain. Here's the thing. If you go into a job that uses your labor, then you're not going to get paid nearly as much because it's not as, intellectually draining. I don't know what it is. It's not as many people will go to be an engineer as will go to be I don't know, what's probably one of the biggest degrees, teacher. And I'm not saying that it's not your brain. I'm not. But they can fill seats with that, right? And they can replace you quickly. If you went to college to study and learn, I don't know, computer science with an AI focus in chip design. That's pretty damn specific, and they're looking for you. Right now, they're looking for you. I don't know if they'll be looking for you later, and they're willing to pay you a crap ton. I mean, go look at what teachers get paid. Is that the labor union? Is that I don't know. We did private school, and they don't get paid very well either. I don't know. I just know that if you go to be a STEM type degree, you're probably going to make more money. Go look it up. Anyway, I directed all my kids to do exactly what poor dad is actually saying with a twist. So rich dad says, hey, teach that money works for you I'm reading this wrong. Rich dad teaches that working for money is limited, and it is because your time is it's a 1-to-1 ratio, right? But your brain can be exponential, or a thing you made or sold could be exponential, right? Instead, he emphasizes the importance of making money work for you through investments, starting businesses, acquiring assets. This is a tough one. How do you acquire asset when you don't have any money? What I'm saying is build up some money and start it with no debt using Dave Ramsey's idea. Is it possible? Yes, it is. It is possible. Yes, you have to sacrifice. Who said it? Oh man, somebody said it recently. I just saw, darn it, I don't remember. But it was the Wealth Studying podcast. So Joe Pugliano said, living the life of a Lamborghini lifestyle, but actually living the Toyota lifestyle, right? So he's saving the money rather than spending it on Lamborghinis. I drive a Ford pickup truck. I'm not into cars. Save your money, do smart things with it. If you're going to spend something, it's on an investment, it's on a business, it's acquiring an asset. One thing that he talks about, this comes up later on, he's like, hey, he wanted to get, I don't know, it was like a Porsche, or he wanted to get some sort of fancy car. And the payment was, I think it was like $500 a month. So he said, I'm going to go buy a house that'll generate $501 a month. And I'm going to use that house to pay for the car. I'm like, that's pretty fantastic. So now he has an asset paying off a debt. A car is a debt. A house you live in, if you listen to him, he would go through and say, the house you live in is not an asset, it's a liability because it's not generating you money. Now, the flip side would be if you did a Airbnb for one of the rooms in your house, right? Originally, Airbnb was, I have a house, there's a room, come stay with me. It was supposed to be a bed and breakfast with me living here. Now it's kind of like vacation home rentals and all that stuff. But that's not what it was intentionally or initially. Okay, so you got to figure out ways to get money and figure out ways, and they will loan you stuff, sort of. You can also go to your friends. I just don't like that. I say build up a nest egg and then go do something with it. So my kids already have it in their mind. Hey, I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to pay it off real quick. I'm going to get roommates, and they're going to go down that road. They should have a pretty good backing with the stuff they've picked. We shall see. Time will tell, right? Statistically, STEM seems to do pretty good. When did I get my degree in engineering? It was like mid 90s, 96-ish, somewhere in there. And they paid a lot back then. I've got friends graduating with engineering degrees right now. They pay a lot right now. So weirdly, it still pays a lot. Okay. The next one is, he throws in a big weight on the importance of financial education. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean you know how to do puts and calls and all that in the stock market, but you should know how to read a P&L, and it makes sense. Now, as an example, we talked about the landlord thing. And one of you guys had said, hey, how can the landlord just jack up the rents like that? Well, that shows that, and most of us don't, but shows that we don't know how a commercial business is actually run. Or somebody said, hey, why are you fixing the toilet? Shouldn't the landlord be doing that? Now, you're thinking, well, what does that have to do with financial? I'm just making a corollary. If we're not involved in it, then we don't know anything about it. Do I expect you to know something about, commercial real estate? Not really, but everybody deals with money. Everyone has profit and loss. I would say at a bare minimum, subscribe to something like YNAB or Mint or one of those other services where you can download all of your expenses and see them every day or month or week, whatever you want to do, and categorize them. That right there is going to help you understand the expense incomes or categories and get you a first view into like, what is the money doing, right? I would also maybe go on YouTube and just say, hey, or ChatGPT and say, hey, give me the basics on financial information. Get an understanding of what's going on. What does a checking account do? What does a savings account do? What does an ETF do? Like, you should know some of these things. What is a mutual fund? What does it mean if I follow an index, right? I would probably know those things. Here's what I do know. They say, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki is big on using debt. Dave Ramsey is not. I'll say this to you. If you ask the wealthiest people in the world what's something they use to their advantage, and it's your debt. They don't have debt. They use your debt. Why would a bank loan out if it wasn't good for them, right? So I would encourage you to get out of debt as fast as possible. That's me. It's been like, if you do Dave Ramsey, look at his stuff, it's like one of the best things you'll ever do for yourself. Now, when you do that, don't just spend the money, save it and do smart things with it. That's a whole other mindset. You actually have to figure out inside of you how to like cure that disease if I want to spend everything. Okay. So this financial education I've paid dearly for. I was a sales guy. So I did electrical engineering and then went into sales engineering and account management. I didn't really understand what was going down whenever they would talk numbers, but over time, that 15, 20 years, whatever it was, I gained a pretty good understanding of what's happening. Now running my own businesses with the money that we saved and then spent on investments, I have P&Ls, I have meetings with the CPAs. I mean, I do all that stuff. I ask them questions. I am their customer. I am paying their money. They will sit and tell me, right? Yes, I have to pay them for their time, but I'm happy to do that because they're experts. So I get to hear that stuff. It has taken time. I wish I would have done something smarter, maybe even just listening to some podcasts on the financial world to get a better understanding of it. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so in point 3, he says, mind your business. What he's saying there is you should do more than just work. You should have investments. We already talked about that. But right here is kind of where I feel like I am at. So he says, even if you have a full-time job, you should work on building assets. And that's what I've told my kids. Build up some money and then build the rest of it, right? Get some base hits, an easy one. Pretty much since the dawn of time, people have had to live somewhere and you've been able to rent out a place, right? The weird secret on a rental that they don't really talk about is... I'm going to go with easy numbers and make-believe numbers because I can't do all this math in my head. But let's say you bought a house for $200,000 and your mortgage payment was $1,000 a month. I know that's not right, but let's just say that's what it is. If you're able to pay that off, then that $1,000 is gone and it's a huge bump. It's not just like $10. It's a huge bump, right? And then you could do something with that. What do you do with it? That becomes the key thing. If you reinvest it back into your business, okay, well, that's a play, and you're looking for a longer payout. This is why many, when we started investing in houses back in just the early part of the 2000s when Y2K was supposed to take everything out, we didn't make really much anything on anything because we were paying things down, paying things off. We were working really hard on that. No, we're not completely complete, but it's a game we play to get there. And it makes us much more stable when like people don't pay rents because of COVID or something. You're like, I can at least float a little bit, right? Okay, so make your money do something for you. Buy assets, stocks, side business, and so forth. Now, this is a weird one on the business. Many people don't delineate between buying a job and buying a business. So if I bought a business, let's say a business would be, I bought an ATM, I installed it somewhere. I know some of you guys are like, what's an ATM? You put your card in there and you can go boop, 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 and then you can pull out your own money from your bank account. So people do businesses with that on an ATM, and that machine is just multiplying your time, right? A rental property, same sort of thing. It could be smaller, like Aaron Dixon said they bought a skid and they rent it out. This is having a business. Now, buying a job would be different. So if he said, I will deliver the skid and then do the work, okay, now it's all subject to him and he has to stay there and do it. Yes, he can charge more, but he loses his time. So how valuable is his time? probably extremely valuable. He's got a family with kids. He wants to make money, not lose time, right? So you want to pick things that you can do and grow gradually. And there's a lot of things out there. Okay. All right, this is a funny one, and for as long as I've been talking about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, most people still disagree with this. So know the difference between an asset and a liability. The biggest one is most people think your house is an asset. An asset on the sheet says it's making me money. So technically, if it's a business, it's not making you money. Thus, it's a liability. Yeah, I know. You're like, well, I could sell it and make money. You could. So it has the potential to be an asset. But as you're using it, it's not an asset. An asset drives you income. So if you bought a rental property and some people do this, they're like, as long as I'm making $1, I'm good. Sure, that's an asset. If you go under that and you make $0, it's not an asset anymore. It's a liability. So your personal home, I concur, but I know most people don't. I would get out of the debt trap of a house as fast as you could. So short story on this one. When Verity and I got married, we lived in a van down by the bend in the river. Now, we lived in a little tiny apartment. Our cars were paid off. We had no mortgages. We had no other debt. So basically, we were dual income, no children, both engineers making decent money while I was a sales guy with commission. I worked hard, so I made a lot of commission. And I traveled a lot, and I was gone a lot. It's not a great life, but at the time, it worked. And we just basically saved a lot of that money, right? I felt by that third book, the Bible, I was blessed by being honorable. And a cool thing about having your own business is you can be who you are. Nobody can tell me, Andy, I need you to cheat, lie, and steal to make this happen. I just don't do that. I tell people, too bad. I don't need to do that. So being honorable my whole life, being a man of ethics my whole life, I think has led to some blessings. And it paid off, and people trusted me. And we were able to do deals that might have been like, I'm not sure. Like, well, trust me. Okay, I'll trust you. So we were able to use that money to then pay off our very first house. And that was happening, I think, man, it all kind of muffles together. I wish I had written these things down better, like a story or a timeline so I could give it to my kids, but I don't know. Somewhere in the 2000s, we paid off our very first house. It wasn't a very big house. It was like a $150,000 house up here in Woodstock, Georgia. She and I were, like I said, both dual income, no children, and we were just smashing money into it. I had a huge commission check one time, and from various weird circumstances, it's just a weird story. It's unbelievable, really. Anyway, we used that, put it in the house, and shortly thereafter, the market crashed. I feel like it was somewhere, where did the market crash? It was like 2002, 2004, 2008, so somewhere in that range. It was in the 2000s. And that got us on the road of, hey, if we've paid one house off, what if we save the money and then buy another house and use the rent and our mortgage that we're not paying and try to pay that down fast, right? Obviously, there's some diminishing returns there. You can only pay down mortgages so fast unless you have chunks of money just laying around. But it does have a snowballing effect. So not diminishing returns. It still takes time to pay things off. But I would highly recommend paying things off as much as you can. So find those assets you can move into. You take your home and make it an Airbnb. That would be awesome. We're running out of room. Anyway, there's things you can do. It doesn't have to be all that extensive. Just start making some sort of money. Okay. All right. The next one is the power of corporations. This is huge. I can't say that. Vivian, if you're listening, I stopped myself. This is really dumb. Okay. Typically so hopefully you know the difference between a W-2 and a 1099. So the W-2 guy has a normal salary job. So let's say he works for a guy works for IBM. He makes $200,000 a year. The tax man's going to say, hey, W-2 at $200,000, we're going to tax you on $200,000 and you're going to pay us, I don't know, I'm making up numbers here. I don't know what all the rates are. You're going to pay us 20% of that. So that's $40,000. So his adjusted income now from taxes and so forth is he gets to live off $160,000. You're like, well, I mean, that's not bad. No, it's not bad. But 40 grand just went to the man, right? That sucks. So is that right for 20%? 10% of 200 would be 20. So yeah, so 40 grand. Now, on the other side, if you had an LLC and you contracted back to the business as an LLC, you could take that 200,000 they were paying you. Actually, they probably pay you more because they're not paying your benefits. They're not paying Social Security tax and all the other stuff. So they might pay you 230. But let's just keep the numbers even. Now, you have to go spend that yourself. But here's the thing. If they paid you a little bit more, we're just going to discount that, and you use your LLC to pay for it, here's what happens. Here's $200,000 that came in. You take all of your expenses to run that business, whatever it is. I bought new shoes. I bought the insurance that didn't get covered. I bought a new desk. I bought an office in my house. You can deduct all that stuff, right? So instead of making $200,000, let's say you're able to deduct your normal life and your expending and whatever of about $50,000 that actually made sense to the business. Now your income that they're going to tax you on is only $150,000. So let's just say they still take 20% of that. That's $30,000 rather than $40,000. So basically, you got to keep $10,000. Yes, you had to spend it. But the point is, if you protect yourself with a limited liability company or an LLC or an S corp or whatever, not only does it give you that protection, don't take my house, right? But it also gives you a way to expense stuff. So the math becomes, instead of my wage, then tax, and then I live on everything else, it becomes my wage or whatever I'm earning, right? All of my expenses, and then they tax me. I mean, this is legal. And people like me do this stuff. I don't own any of the stuff that we own. It's all in different LLCs because that's what they said to do. And Rich Dad Poor Dad said that's what you do. I'm like, I don't really understand what I'm doing. I'm just an electrical engineer that knows that V equals IR and F equals MA. And that's pretty much it. I can give you the 10th decimal in pi or the 10th number after the decimal in pi, but who cares about that? I just trusted their advice, and it was good advice. So far, it's really paid off. In the lifetime of all these businesses, the only one that actually has gone awry twice now is the Garage Games. I'm no longer part of that, but we had people competing, and they didn't want to lose, so they would just keep going, and they would do stupid stuff. Eventually, they're like, hey, I did a stupid thing. It's your fault. I'm going to sue you. Both of them were thrown out. It was only twice, and both of them were thrown out. They're like, you could have stopped at any time. They're like, well, yeah, I could have. And they're like, okay, well, it's not them. You just didn't want to stop. I'm not saying it was right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just saying we did get sued, so it's good to have protection. I also have a massive umbrella policy, so you don't want to get, if you're going to do these things, you do want some coverage. The $1 million policy is actually pretty cheap. Get it. $5 million is a little bit more expensive, but they're still going to pay out. If you want to go full tilt, according to Dave Ramsey and Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, you want to get a really big policy, like a $10 million umbrella, because they don't want to pay that out. They'll actually send their lawyers to fight. I don't know. What's the right answer? I don't really know. We just followed what Robert Kiyosaki said. So that's kind of what we did. Okay, next section. Okay, this is a big one for me. Work to learn, not earn. Okay, so some of you would say, hey, Andy, what about the gym? You said you don't make any money. We did, and we spent it doing this, that, and the other thing, and so forth. And then over the last couple of years, I've just taken a different approach. I totally got burned out, and I needed help, and I was willing to pay for help. So just like Aaron Dixon and his skid, which you should go rent, you go on Facebook Marketplace and find it, and it'll help you move things around. You should go rent that. I needed help, time help, not money help. So I was willing to forego any type of payment to get help because I was burning out. I had 4 kids in the throes of all the junk. And I mean, hey, try being married to me. It's not easy. So I had to do a lot of inside fixing to make me not so much of an asshole. And hey, I apologize to you guys. Hopefully you see the good side of me now. But sometimes when you see the world as black and white, it's just not, I mean, I get it. There should be black and white. But everyone has a different black and white, right? Everybody's reality is a little bit different. It's like this, when you go through a relationship and you break up, if you ask the lady, how did it go? It'll have a story and she's super passionate about it. If you ask the guy, he's going to say, different story, super passionate about it. Which one's right? Probably a melding of something in the middle. And it took me a very long time to get there. Anyway, so work to learn. What I have learned out of doing this as a business is so invaluable. Getting on stage in front of you guys to present, I can talk anywhere. As a matter of fact, I went up to Watify to meet with them, and Brendan says, hey, Andy, I need you to stall for about 15 minutes. Can you get up there and talk? I'm like, yes. And I stood up in front of his people that I didn't know, and we started doing a thing about 15 minutes long, right? And it was useful and beneficial because, well, I know the subject. It's gyms and software and stuff. But I have no problem with that. If I went to church and someone said, get up and talk because the pastor's late, I would do it. There's also, I guess, as you get older, you get a lot of degree of, I just don't care. So I'd rather just help you. And if somebody says, Andy, you were dumb up there, I'm like, I don't care. Did it help Timmy? Great. I helped him. So my desire to help is way bigger than my desire to avoid embarrassment, right? Anyway, so I have learned a lot. I have learned there's so much more in a business than, just having a website. There's just so much I could tell you. I basically have gotten an MBA the hard way out of doing this. And I think if I reinsert myself back into the matrix, now that my kids are out of the house and they don't really want a succession plan, I probably could go back to work, a normal job. Man, I think I would crush it for somebody in that sales engineering world. If I went back into the place that I was before, knowing what I know now, good grief. Anyway, So work to learn, not to earn. So he's talking about getting those experiences. I would throw this in. It was another book from a guy up here that owns some Chick-fil-A's. I don't remember what it is. But he said, live on 70% of your income right away. The other thing you're going to be doing besides, give, save, and the other 10% is like to invest in yourself. Always be okay with spending money on yourself for the things you want to grow and learn. Don't ever think that that's an expense. That you should be investing in yourself all the time. All right. Next one is overcoming obstacles. And I think this one, the biggest thing I took away was the willingness to take calculated risk. So not risk, but calculated risk. For example, several people said, hey, what about all those people that have gyms at their home that aren't really using and they're not really staying fit? I'm like, you know what? Calculated risk. I will do something. I've already spent about $5,000 of Andy money to get the business rolling, but that's kind of what it takes with lawyers and insurance and all that crap. And I'm willing to risk that money because it's a calculated risk. I think there's probably 1,000 people that are looking to do something like garage fitness online. Out of all of America and all the people who do CrossFit, there's probably 1,000 people that are at home with their gyms and they wish they had a community. There's probably more than 1,000. There's probably 1,000 people that'll join. I think there's probably 100,000 people because if you look at my list of people that were members and are not anymore, I've got about 100 members. Actually, it probably hovers between 80 and 100 right now. The economy's kind of messing us up, but hey. But I've got like 3,000 emails. That means over 17 years, there's like 3,000 people that were interested and then probably do something at home. So even if it's just 10%, that's 300 people. If you do 300 people paying, I don't know, $10 a month, that's $3,000 a month. I think I'm going to get my money back pretty fast. So it's a calculated risk. And I actually enjoy doing it. So that's another weird one. I wouldn't do things you don't enjoy. So if you're like, oh, Bitcoin, but you hate the idea of that and you don't want to like learn, well, one, shame on you, go learn something. But two, don't do the things you hate, right? So in this business, I'm working with my brother. He's very good and passionate about some things, and I'm very good and passionate about other things. When we cross lanes, it's like, no. So he's really smart in the whole AI world and automation and all that. And I'll tell him, hey, can't you just automate this thing? He's like, Andy, seriously? And then he tells me, Andy, you should do a video, and here's the AI-generated script outline. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not doing a video like that. I'm not an actor. I'm a talker. It's totally different, right? So stay in your lane, right? But overcome the obstacles and have the mindset of I'm going to try these things, but I'm going to educate myself first, right? Calculate the risk. Don't just jump in. All right, so the next one kind of goes along with that, but it's taking action. You got to do a step. You got to do a thing. There are a lot of people in my life that have ideas, but never do a thing. So I do shotgun a lot of ideas, spitball them on the wall or whatever, and they're up there. And then I will force rank them. Which ones make me smile, which ones are interesting, and which ones can actually make money. And then I'll just take one of them and start it. Or jump on board with somebody else if they're starting it. So I don't always have to go in alone. I don't usually like the idea of partners because it gets tough when you disagree on how things go. The easy way around a bad partnership or a misunderstood partnership is to pick somebody that's not involved, that's a good third party that you both kind of know, like, and trust-ish, and they've got good values. Like we have a guy that I think everyone would agree from the Garage Games era, Wes Harper, who is like just America, like he's just American pie. The guy is super solid. He's got great values. And I think I would believe pretty much anything that came out of his mouth. And if I came up to him and said, hey, we're doing this business and this is what's happening, and the other person said, well, I think this is what's happening, and he said, well, Andy, you're an idiot, you should do it the other way, I'd be like, okay, I believe it. He's just that good. So one easy way is just to agree, yeah, we will talk to Timmy and we'll do what Timmy says. So that gets you out of like a lot of like, well, I don't know if it's like the right... Trust the other person because it's hard to see the problems in your own mind. For example, my brother called me, or he texted me, and then I called him, and he said, hey, class is in about 30 minutes, but I've got a headache, and I've had it for 4 days. Should I go? I'm like, hey, this is what I would do. So you do you, but this is what I would do. I don't like missing. So I would go to the gym and just sit on the bike. I would drink a lot of water, and I would just bike normally, and I'd watch everybody in class do a thing, and I would just bike. He's like, really? I'm like, yes. He's like, all right, I'm gonna give that a shot. So sometimes you can't see a problem because it's your problem. But if you ask somebody else, they're gonna give you the easy answer. And easy answers, I love easy answers. Tell me yes or no, don't tell me maybe. Okay, another big one there is when you take action is to learn from failure. Failure isn't failure, it's just a lesson. I have a lot of businesses that you guys don't know about because they're no longer here, and I've learned lessons. One of the lessons that I learned from a business is only one person should have access to the money. Otherwise, you're unsure what's going on with the money. The other is you should probably not police or do your own books because weird crap can happen. So yeah, there's stories there. I don't really want to go down those roads. It's, weird times. It's not the garage. It's other businesses that don't exist anymore. So yes, but learn and adapt. Life is going to throw you weird stuff like the rent. I knew they painted the building and sold it twice and then painted, whatever. I knew they were making it up. I just didn't have an understanding on how much they would boost the rent, and I hadn't planned on that. And then I spent a year trying to figure that out and adapting. Yeah, nothing worked. Why? Well, man, you tell me. The price of gas has gone from $1 to like $4, right? I don't know. I don't know. I don't really have an answer. I think the biggest problem in a business like a small boutique gym like we are is at 100 members, every one person represents 1% of your business. So right now I've got, let's just say, let's pretend that there's, 10. Let's say there's 10 pregnant people in the gym. Well, that's 10% of the gym is pregnant. I mean, tell me any other business where like 10% of their business is pregnant. What does that mean? Well, it means a lot of things. They're going to obviously have to stop coming to the gym eventually, and then they're going to want to come back, or do they want to come back? I mean, being a mom is tough, especially if it's your first time. Being a dad with a baby is tough, especially if it's your first time. So that's just like uncertain business. Anyway, you have to adapt to that. How do you adapt to that? I don't know. I'm adapting, right? So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you learn from the failures. It is kind of funny, especially in this like gym business where a lot of people are like, why don't you just? I love those things. I'm like, so we did that before. Why don't you just? I'm like, yeah, we did that. Well, did you do it better? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess I could go back and do it better. We'll see. Like, every so often, the whole idea of you should have yoga in here. We've tried that 3 times, 3 different ways. It didn't work. Give me a fourth way that's different. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, yoga never works in there. Okay. I think if I was going to give you 2 takeaways, probably the biggest is to collect your money or build assets so you can get a thing. So find out what would be the next easy step and like, what are you willing to risk? So a house is going to be, let's just say $400,000, and you're going to, I don't know, you put 20% down. So that's a lot of money to just store up and put down. That's a big ask right there. But a smaller ask would be, hey, what if I bought a skid or bought a used skid, which maybe they're like $3,000, and then I rented it out? How much do they rent for? What if I bought 10 floor cleaners? When your wife calls you during a podcast, you answer, and you hope you hit pause so all of y'all didn't just hear me say, yes, I'll come pull a splinter out of your hand. Give me 10 minutes. Okay. So anyway, build your assets. If you're younger, this is a lot easier to do. If you have a family, it's not as easy to do. Here's the weird thing about like collecting your money. Many of us pay for things we didn't even know we had. Like I hate this about the world today is all on subscriptions. It used to be I could pay, $40 and have Microsoft Word. It had Excel, it had, Microsoft Office. I'd have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and something else, right? And I paid for it and it was mine and I could use it. I'm done. Now they're like, hey, we want you to have a subscription with us at $10 a month. You're like, damn it. Yeah, it's less than 40, but it's not, it adds up over time. So everything is subscription based and you have these things creep up on you. My kids have said, Dad, we want all these streaming services like we have Netflix, but they also wanted the Disney one, whatever it's called, Disney Plus. Obviously I don't have it. Apple TV and all these other things. I don't have any of them. I said, I am willing to buy one streaming service at a time or rent, whatever it is, pay monthly. So when you're ready to give up Netflix, let me know and we'll go to the next one, but I'm not doing multiple ones. I think that helped him, 1, cheat the system. They figured out how to watch things for free, and which is super creative. I love that. And then 2, hey, we don't spend on dumb things like that, right? I know, I have a weird one with this. People are like, well, I bought a boat. Yeah, I think I hear the story all the time. The best time of your life is buying the boat. The second best time is selling the boat, right? So you can rent boats these days, right? And you don't have to do any upkeep. Yeah, it costs you a little bit to rent it, but the boat's not yours. You don't have to maintain it. Or have a friend that has a boat and go with them and tell them, I will buy gas or whatever you buy. I think it's usually 2-cycle gas, or is it straight gas? Yeah, I don't remember. But do stuff like that rather than own things that aren't really assets. A boat is not an asset. Well, I guess there was a time when all the used things went up in value And that I could possibly make you some money there. But anyway, okay. The other thing I would say is, start saving money, pick a small thing that you could do. A very easy one, which would be kind of weird, but you could turn one of your rooms into an Airbnb and see how it works. If you have small kids, don't do that. If you're living on your own, I think it would be interesting. Or you could buy a skid, or you could buy floor scrubbers and rent those out, right? Those are pretty cheap. So there are things you could do to put your money to work for you. Yeah, you have to repair things. You just have to be okay with doing that sort of stuff. I repair a lot of stuff at the gym and at our rental properties. Not toilet stuff. Jamal does that for me right now because flooding your house is no fun. So the other thing I would do is understand the concepts behind money. I think a fascinating thing that everyone should understand is like fractional banking. Like, what is it how are they actually making money when they loan out your money? You put money in the bank, then they loan out your money, and they don't actually have to have any of your money on hand. And they just know that other people are going to put money in and they can give you that money. So they're playing a massive shell game. I think it's worthwhile understanding that. I think another rough concept, but it would be great to learn, is like printing money and inflation. Like, how does that work? Like, if I just put money under my mattress, why am I losing? I think that's super valuable. I think understanding why an ounce of gold 500 years ago will basically buy you about the same thing right now. That's weird. So is it worth buying gold and silver? I don't know. I mean, I do know, actually. These guys will tell you, diversify your wealth. So, I don't know, buy some junk silver. Like, they had quarters that had a certain amount of silver in it. And based on the date, it's a U.S. printing of it. So hey, it's like a 1973 quarter, which isn't worth a quarter. Well, it is. If you spend it, it's worth a quarter. But the silver in it is worth, I don't know, like $5 or something. So you can start that way and then, I don't know, sell them. A lot of things you could do, a lot of businesses out there. You can just Google it, or maybe go to ChatGPT and say, list all the businesses I could start for under $1,000. Give me 100 of them, and then give me 200 of them. It'll do it. It doesn't care. Some of them might be really dumb, but that's awesome. It might get you thinking. Okay. I think the last thing that I would pass on to you guys is this whole Dave Ramsey thing. I think I would work on, so I think he's changed his methodology since he started it. He says, first build up a emergency fund, so get $1,000 of emergency fund, and then start getting out of debt. I like that approach. He does now include your house debt. Before, I think he said, I don't know, but he really pushes hardcore for that. I agree with that. So I know some of you guys aren't Bible people. It doesn't really matter, because sometimes the advice, no matter where it comes from, is still true. Like my Bible study guys, I was like, hey, there's this really good book. I think it's by Dr. Gottman or John Gottman. They're like, oh, he's not a Christian. I'm like, I don't really care. 2 + 2 is still 4. His stuff is insightful, right? So if you don't believe in this stuff, that's okay. In the Bible, there is some really good information in there, and it tells you debt makes you a slave. And I concur. They could take everything away if you owe. If you don't owe, they can't take anything away. So you could just be like, whatever, go away. Now, the weird thing is you never actually really own anything because let me take that back. I guess you could own some things, but property you don't ever own, because if you didn't pay the taxes on your property, they're taking it. So when you own it, you now just have the privilege to only pay the government's leasing fees, which at least are usually less than your mortgages. All right, guys. It is a weird thing to put these things into practice over a lifetime and see where it gets you. And I don't know. Did I expect to be where I am right now? I don't know. I mean, I followed somebody else's plan, and they said it would work, and I trusted them, and it's worked out pretty good. So Robert Kiyosaki, Dave Ramsey, I would listen to them, right? That's pretty good stuff. There's a wisdom in the Bible. I mean, it's the best-selling book of all time. I would listen to that stuff, even if you're not a believer. I mean, like the law of sowing and reaping. I agree. If you are an asshole, then guess what? You're going to reap a lot of assholeness, right? So, I mean, there's just good information out there and stuff that stands the test of time. And Rich Dad Poor Dad and Dave Ramsey, those 2 books, man, they're beautiful. There's another one. Let me pull up this other book. I'm going to pause you for a second and find it. Okay, I found it. It's called The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. This is a great book. I would recommend this one to everybody. So these are the 3 or 4 books that I would recommend you guys checking out. The younger you are, the more time you have to put this into play. The older you are, here's my advice. Aaron Vincent and his crew, go to the gym. Go talk to them. I mean, their job is to help people put a plan in place, and we know, like, and trust them, and we understand their values. I would just go to Vincent Financial in downtown Woodstock and be like, hey, buddy, help me. That's what they do. They help people with their finances, specifically retirement, but They're going to tell you this sort of stuff, and you're going to have somebody to help keep you accountable. Yes, you do pay them, but you want to pay them because they're giving you good advice. I know. You're like, Andy, we just did a whole lot of financial. Why? Because look, the podcast is, or what I would like to get across for you guys is how to live a good life now and when you're older, right? So how do you do that? You have to be resilient with your health and your wealth. So if you're healthy and have no money, you're a burden on somebody because you're going to live a long time with no money. If you got all this money, but you're sick, then you're just going to give that money to somebody else. So you need both of them. How do you do that? Man, weirdly, it's one step at a time. I heard this from Jack Spirko on the Survival Podcast. I love this. It was a good saying. So your journey does not start with your first step. The journey starts with the second step, because when you take one small step, you could just put your foot back. But when you move the second foot, you're actually starting to progress. Take small steps, just like we do nutrition challenge, just like we do the gym. Small steps, expecting growth over time. I still put this out to everybody out there. If you come to the gym and you invest in yourself 4 days a week, even half-assing it, and let me do a little bit of nutrition work with you, I guarantee you 1 year later, you're going to be fitter than you are today. I guarantee it so much that I'll give you back 10 times your money. Why? Because it's the biggest no-brainer in the history of no-brainers. Of course it's going to work. It's just like if you asked Aaron, hey, if I saved my money and invested it wisely daily, would that make me rich? You'd be like, I mean, yeah. Obviously it depends what you invested in, but yeah, that's the right thing. So the trajectory of a base hit, a double hit, a triple play, I don't know. Triple play is when you get somebody out. Just a triple, I don't know. It doesn't have to be hard and complicated. Follow the advice that gets most of the people there most of the time, doing it mostly this way. It's probably a good road. Small things to rent are smart and build up. So maybe I did a carpet cleaner and then a skid, right? Or a carpet cleaner and now 10 carpet cleaners and now a skid. And then we go from a skid to, I don't know, I'm renting out something that's $10,000, a horse. No, don't buy a horse. Yeah, all you horse owners just cringed. I know, no horses. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. The podcast is called Fitness, Food, and Finances, CrossFit Garage. If you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I'd like to watch the video. If you go to YouTube and look for @AndyMcCann42, you'll find the video. So I try to do both because Levi said, Dad, if you're going to do one, you might as well do both. I'm like, all right, let's do it. All right, guys, don't let perfect be the enemy of done. Pick something and start. Take care, guys.